Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Amy, the Common Sense Cook, and welcome to episode 2 of batch cooking. Today what I want to do is I want to show you my meal planning. I'm going to walk you through the steps and kind of answer some of the questions that I had asked in one of our groups and try to help you get started in your kitchen. Batch cooking is one of those things that makes it easier during the week so that you don't have to worry about pulling stuff together. Oh, I forgot something in the freezer. This is not marinated. This takes 3 hours. All of it is easy. I'm going to give you some of my tips along the way because freezing is something new to me. I don't really do a lot of freezing, but this week we had to do 2 weeks because of our budget, and I'm going to take you around the kitchen. I'm going to show you what I do. I hope you enjoy it. This week I decided to bring out my trusty friend, the whiteboard. This is something that has always been so helpful to me when I'm trying to meal plan especially, or keep track of things. Here's how I start. I usually take requests from the kids. And what these are things that they would like to see during the week, or they're just random things, notes, things that I need to try to incorporate into the week. Then what I do is I try to write the numbers of how many days. This week I actually had to do 2 full weeks. And then I try to keep in mind what day of the week it's going to be on, because there's some days, like this day right here on this Thursday, we're going to have parent-teacher conferences, so we're going to be busy that night and won't need to make an extravagant meal. And I do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then I move on, and what I try to do is start with the ingredients. I go through every single one. This one is for dinner. I take each list and I try to write all the things that I need for them. And I kind of went out of order because I actually pick recipes and try to decide what recipes I'm going to use, and then I go and make my list. And this is every single ingredient that I don't already have on hand. And then I go through all of this for breakfast and for lunch. And then I make my list. This is my list for this week. And you can see that I've marked several things off. What do is I go through, and so these are every ingredient that I need, and I'll go back and I'll make tallies. So I needed 9 pounds of ground beef this week. And that's how I take care of that. Now I will go back, and I think I've showed this in the previous batch cook video. I'll go back and I'll put all my fruits and vegetables in one. I'll put all my meat over here, and it kind of cleans up the list. It's a very long process, especially if you're doing for more than 1 week. I usually do 1 week, but this week, just for budgetary reasons, I went ahead and did it for 2 weeks. And today what I'm going to be working on batch cooking is these things right here. I made a list of the things that I need to go ahead and get done, or get in the freezer, or start marinating. That way they can be ready for me, and they also don't spoil. They'll be ready in the freezer, and all I have to do is take them out the night before. I'm not a fan of using the microwave to defrost just because it seems to mess with the flavor and the textures. So I recommend trying to pull everything out the night before if you can, or remember. Or you may even be able to, depending on what time of day you eat supper, to pull it out the morning of. Now today we're going to be working on sausage patties, granola, chopping up some veggies ahead of time. I'm not going to pre-cook that because it just did not do that well. Some things for lunches, some sauce, cooking some meat ahead, or making meatballs ahead of time. And I'm going to throw some things in some bags so that they can marinate ahead of time, because that really helps enhance the flavor. And when you're doing a diet like this, you really need some flavor to help you stick to it. And that's it. I'll start showing you how I'm going to prep these, and I hope you enjoy this video. One of the first things I like to do to get organized for batch cooking is trying to get everything out. I have some of my Ziplocs here. I have my phone here for when I like to listen to podcasts or music. I have a bowl for some onions that I'm going to cut. I have how many sweet potatoes I'm going to cut up, and a big bowl for that. I have my blender, which I'm going to kind of use as a food processor. A garbage bowl. Rachel Ray is very fond of this concept, where you just have a big bowl handy to throw all of your things away so you don't have to run back and forth through the trash. I'm going to be working on lunch as well, so I'm going to do some tuna fish cakes Now I wanted to show you guys, I keep all of my glass jars from spices, and I bought some white pepper for some recipes, and I just took one of my silicone funnels and put it right on in there. That was pretty handy, and I like to try to keep all my spices together. I have an island, so this is a little bit easier, but I get any bowls or utensils that I need, extra bowls, garlic, my big whacker, lemons, and then here are some of the spices I'm going to be using. Here are some of the other products I'll be using: apple cider vinegar, red cooking wine, olive oil, honey, coconut aminos. This is a substitute for soy sauce that has no soy. It's actually made from coconut, and it's GMO free, vegan, everything like that. And then I have one of my favorite things, sesame oil. And that's how I try to get started. Okay, I've put my tuna in a bowl, and I've actually tried to drain the water out of it quite a bit, just because I'm afraid if it actually goes into the oven, it's not going to crisp very well if it is so wet. So I'm going to add just some basic things like honey, some coconut aminos. I'm going for that Asian flair, and I am so out of this stuff. A little bit of sesame oil, just a dash. It doesn't need a lot. Sesame oil is really, really strong. Just a little drizzle. I'm going to add, this is not conventional, I just like it, a little bit of vinegar, a tiny bit of salt. This is pink Himalayan salt, and I just picked this up like I mentioned, and this is white pepper, and I am simply going to put a dash, sprinkle that around. To add these into a cupcake tin, and then I'm going to bake them at 350, and I'm going to come back and figure out the time because I haven't done these ones before. I'm just kind of winging it. Sometimes you just have to do that, and I'll let you know as we continue. Our tuna cakes are done. I actually, after I got done filming, I added some garlic and some lemon juice because it just felt like it needed something else. I did it for 350 for 15 minutes, and you can see I only filled them about halfway full. I took them out and put a little bit of honey on the top of it, like a good drizzle, and put it under the broiler for about 3 to 4 more minutes. That way it could get a nice crust. Now, they did kind of turn out to be more like tuna lumps than tuna cakes, but that's alright. It actually has a really great flavor, and I'm kind of excited about this. Okay, so let's try our tuna cakes. I've actually already eaten a few of these, but what the heck. I really like them because it really mellowed out the tuna. You can see under putting it in the broiler, it's got a little bit of crispness. And then it's also got the sweetness from the honey that I put on top to kind of glaze it. I got a 3 out of 3 kid rating, and my husband even ate some. That's an accomplishment for me. So if you want to try it out, I try to link a recipe in the description box below. Okay, we have gotten a little further in our batch cooking endeavors. We're going to check off tuna cakes. We have done our marinades, and we've still got a few things to go, but we're well on our way. It's really good to keep a list handy. That way, when you're done, you can just check off all your tasks, and you know what else you have left to do. Say hi, little Buddha. We are moving on to marinating some meat. I have some pork ribs, I have some pork chops, and I have some chicken wings, special request by Madison. We're going to put them in a gallon-sized Ziploc bag and season them, and I'll show you how to do that. Let's add some olive oil to all of these bags. Just a drizzle. It doesn't have to be in a whole bunch. We're going to add other things to help coat them. I have some lemons that I have juiced. I'm going to add a little more into the lemon pepper chicken than the others. Just a drizzle into the souvlaki and the Asian marinade. I have tons of garlic that you should have seen me chop. I'm going to put a little bit into each. And when I say a little bit, I mean a lot. We definitely love garlic. And I really believe there's no such thing as too much garlic. There is, but there isn't. Now, with the lemon pepper, it's going to seem so easy. Okay, we added the lemon juice, we added the olive oil, and we added some garlic. I'm going to add some pepper. No, we're not using anything out of a jar. We're going to take some peppercorns like this, and I'm going to whack them. And all you have to do, lay them on your cutting board, spread them out so they're not all side by side, and you're going to crush them. I believe I've shown this in another video, if you'd like to actually see it. But you're just going to use your weight, press it down, and then you will have pepper. Now I am going to add this to some of the others, but most of it is going to go into the lemon pepper chicken. I'm going to add a little bit into the Asian marinade and a little bit into the souvlaki. They don't need as much. Next, I think for a little bit of sweetness, I have some raw local honey. Bought the big jar to last me a while. I'm going to squish a little bit in each. A little more in the Asian marinade because it actually needs that sweetness. And actually, I'm not going to add any to the souvlaki. It doesn't need it. Best thing about being the chef is you get to lick your fingers. But you should probably wash your hands afterwards. That would be the good thing to teach you guys, right? Just a quick rinse. We're going to add some red cooking wine to the souvlaki. Now, here's the thing about it. If you can get some good wine. We actually live in a dry county. If y'all don't know what it is, it's hell. It means that they don't sell wine or liquor of any kind in our area, and we have to drive to a different county to be able to get it. But they do sell cooking wine, which is extremely salty. You have to watch the amount of salt that you use, even in a marinade, because there's nothing worse than something being too salty. Now, I will add a little bit of pink Himalayan salt to all of them. Not, like I said, not as much in the souvlaki because the red cooking wine is actually much saltier. Just gonna squish that in there real quick. And that means this one is done. This is the chicken. I'm gonna smush it around in there, cut it evenly, distribute all of that awesome flavor. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it into the freezer. Now, I want to mention something that I've always felt about using the freezer. I'm not a fan of the freezer. I like my food fresh because if you freeze and refreeze and unfreeze and put it back in the freezer, it messes with the texture terribly. So my advice is if you buy something frozen, keep it frozen. You may season it and put it back in the freezer, but make sure it stays frozen. Now, if you have some that's fresh like I did, go ahead, season it, put it in the freezer, pull it out the night ahead of time or the morning. That way you don't have to worry about, defrosting in the microwave. That's just the most awful thing I've ever experienced. Now, we're going to work on the souvlaki. We've gotten most of our ingredients in there, but I'm going to add some dill weed. This is some organic kind from Walmart. If you have fresh, it's so much better. I'm going to add some of that in there. Some apple cider vinegar. You can use it whatever kind of vinegar you have on hand. Well, apple cider vinegar, red wine vinegar, white vinegar. It just depends on, what you like. I'm going to add just a dash, once again, of white pepper and see how that is. This is the first time I've really worked with white pepper, so I'm curious to give it more of a try. Alright. Now I am going to put a lot more of this white pepper into the Asian marinade. We're done with the souvlaki. This is more like 2 dashes. I have put some lemon juice in it. I have put some garlic in it. Now we're going to do some sesame oil. That's what gives it the great nutty flavor. I absolutely love it. And I need to put some coconut aminos in it. If you have tamari, you can use tamari. If you're not paleo, you can use soy sauce. Just make sure you check the salt content. And that's it. I mean, we've basically got 2 meals already marinated and ready to go in the freezer. And like I said, all you have to do is pull it out, let it defrost, and then it's ready to cook when you get home. How great is that? Okay, I'm going to show you guys how I like to chop my garlic. We like it nice and small so that it blends into everything. And what you want to do is you want to make sure it's stable and flat. You're going to put the blade on it and you're going to use the bottom of your hand right here and whack. And whack. And whack. Take out some of that aggression. Your husband made you mad. The dog pooped in the floor. Something bad happened. Take your aggression out on the garlic. And then just chop, 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 chop. Now, one thing that my husband just taught me is he bought me some new Farberware knives. And this one is actually completely flat. That way it can go all the way down on the board. It's much easier to chop like this, and my old blades, I don't even want to think about using them because this is just amazing. Next, we're going to work on some AIP granola. Granola is usually something with oats and nuts and things like that. And if you have those in your diet, go ahead and look up some of those recipes. They're great. I actually have a pumpkin spice granola that I can link below that uses different kind of nuts and coconut and pumpkin seasonings. But because I'm trying to get a little bit closer to AIP, making more of my meals AIP rather than paleo, I have some things back in, and I tolerate them just fine, but I like to stay as close to AIP as I can. I'm going to make this granola, and again, I'm trying to wing it. I saw a recipe where they use flaked coconut. Now this is the larger flakes. You can see they're not the tiny itty bitty flakes that you would use for baking. And I'm going to pour 2 of these bags. This is 12 ounces. So together we'll have 24 ounces. And as I've mentioned in other parts of this video, go ahead and try to clean up as you go. Keep your trash can handy. That way you don't have 1,000 packages ending up on the counter or they get knocked off on the floor. Okay, so that's done. I am now going to add some cinnamon. Now I am using cheap cinnamon. If you want to use organic, fair trade, go ahead. I'm just using what I've got. Now you don't want to overdo cinnamon because it's got a real good bite to it. But simply just put some in there. That was probably less than a tablespoon. Now, to bring out the sweetness, I am going to add a little pink Himalayan salt. But again, I'm winging this, so I'm just assuming this is going to work. I just feel like the beginning recipe that I saw, I feel like it just needed a little bit of development. Now, for the fruit, you can use whatever kind of raisins you can find. You can use dried apricots or you could use regular raisins. I'm actually going to use dried blueberry raisins. They're a little expensive, and I think it's just because there's about 1 million of them in a package. But they're absolutely delicious, and I love putting these on salads for my kids as well. But I'm going to add several handfuls in there to mix it in. And I also want to add honey because I like a sticky granola. And I think it'll help it kind of form chunks instead of being individual pieces. And I'm really going to use probably about 1/2 cup to 1 cup of honey. Again, this is my local honey. It's raw. It's delicious. But I will give you a little piece of advice. Sometimes it's sweeter than others. This one's a little bit more mild. But I remember the first jar of that honey that I got because it was sickeningly sweet. So know exactly how it tastes. Go ahead, lick your finger. It's not a big deal, especially if nobody else is in the kitchen watching. Now I'm going to grab a spoon real quick. And I'm going to mix this all together, trying to evenly distribute it. I might add a little bit more honey if I need it. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it on a sheet. Now, if you don't like using metal, if you don't like using aluminum foil, do what you want to do. There are silicone pads that you can use. There's parchment paper, and there's all sorts of different options. Just use what you like best. I'm going to throw it in a 350-degree oven. I'm going to check the time, and I'll probably get back to you when I'm done with this. And then we'll have our AIP granola ready for our early mornings. Make sure that you gently mix it, because otherwise you're going to end up with this mess. So make sure that you do as I say, not as I do, and try to keep the mess to a minimum. While I had the granola cooking, I decided to go ahead and take a break. And that's something I want to encourage you to do. If you have something simple that you like to do, mine's crocheting. I actually crochet scarves and knit scarves, and it's just a nice way to kind of chill out, sit down, and relax. You may turn on some music and just sit down for a little while. I don't want cooking and batch cooking especially to be stressful. I want you to be able to, take your time. Don't feel like you have to get it all done, because the more you stress about it, the harder it's going to be, and the harder you're going to be able to stick to it. So what I did is I took it off. You can see how everything is nice and golden, the honey as well, and I actually put it in a bag, and I'm going to try to stir it up a little bit, because I added some Enjoy Life chocolate chips. Now, if you have never seen these, they're absolutely awesome. The price can vary depending on where you found it. I found these for $3 at Kroger's, but they can go up to $6 at a health food store, so shop around. But these actually have, I believe it's top 8, let me see, top 8 allergens. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, soy-free, and all those different things to where, a lot of kids can be able to enjoy these even if they have allergies. So I'm going to add this in there and just shake it up. Now make sure you let this cool before you put it in a plastic bag. And that's all there is to it. I'm going to set this up in the pantry, and then we're good to go for tomorrow morning. Next, we're going to move on to doing sausage. I'm going to make sausage patties. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pound of ground beef. I'm going to take my seasoning, some pink Himalayan salt, some pepper, some herbs de Provence, and some garlic, and I'm going to mix it together one at a time in my food processor. I'm going to form the patties. I'll show you pictures as I go, but I'm trying to kind of speed up this video. I don't want y'all to be sitting here for half an hour watching me cook, even though I'm sure some of you lovely people might. And we're going to try to bang some of the rest of this out. So that's it, guys. That is my batch cooking. Thank you for sticking around for episode 2. I hope to bring you another episode soon. What I really want to leave you with today is considering your organization, these tips and tricks that I've said, and how you can really just make the kitchen more efficient for you. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be a struggle. You can simply go on and batch cook what you can, and, just have an edge, middle of the week, especially a lot of us that are dealing with autoimmune disorders. We often get tired, we don't have the energy, or we don't feel well, we're in pain, and we need something to kind of help us out, to keep us on our AIP or paleo journey. So I hope this helps you. If it did, give it a thumbs up. I'll leave links and recipes all in the description bar below, and I hope if you're new, you'll hit that subscribe button above. And I want to remind you that there's no wrong way to cook except for to not cook at all. I'll see you next time.